Well, good evening, everyone. Lady Victoria here. Ask you to come on in as we begin our late evening broadcast tonight. Tonight we are going to be talking about broken people. This is a presentation of our Bedtime Chronicle series, which we revive from time to time as the need arises or as we see fit. So anyway, come on in. For those of you who do not know who I am Lady Victoria of Victoria School of Etiquette, where we have a solution to all of your etiquette problems, dilemmas, or issues. Tonight's edition is a little bit different off of the beaten path, but as I said before, Bedtime Chronicles is something that we do, a series that we produce from time to time. We revive it when the time calls for it. So, Bedtime Chronicles, I am broadcasting to you live from the great windy city of Chicago, Chi-Town, we like to call it, the best in the Midwest. So I'm asking you tonight to come on in and tag a neighbor, tag a friend, come on in and be a part of our platform on tonight as we discuss broken things. We addressed it on last week. We talked about it on last Friday, and we specifically talked about things, broken things, not necessarily people. But tonight we are going to be talking about broken people, emotionally broken people. Last week when we addressed broken things, we talked about inanimate objects, things that might be broken, and whether or not they should be repaired, could be repaired, if they no longer serve the purpose that they were designed for. Is there any need in having them repaired? And what is the value of it? What is the value of holding on to broken things? So when you're talking about inanimate objects, really it only has the value, or anything that's broken, it only has the value that you yourself assign to it as a person. So if you assign value to it and it's broken, then it's only valuable to you. But to someone else, seems like I can't get comfortable in this chair. It would seem like to someone else that if it's broken, it's just broken. And so why are you holding on to it? It no longer serves the purpose that it was intended for. So then it should be released. It should be allowed to die a natural death, and you should just let go of it and get rid of it. Let's see, I was trying to get check another person or two. Bear with me just a moment here. I got a couple of people on my list that I missed. So sorry. Hold on just a moment. Be right there. So, who else? While we're talking about, we were talking about inanimate things on last week. Let me regroup. We were talking about inanimate things on last week. So this week, we're going to be talking about actual people. We're going to be talking about actual people that are broken. So last week when we talked about broken things, what do you do with them? Oftentimes when we find that things are broken, we will often cast them away. We would get rid of them. We would throw them in the trash heap. You know, we have something that's broken, whether it's a piece of jewelry, maybe a piece of furniture, or, you know, whatever it is, you put it aside thinking that you're going to repair it, that you're going to take care of it. You're going to repair it. You're going to fix it for later. You don't have time to do it right then. So you put it to the side, you throw it in a corner somewhere, and you're going to come back to it. And so in a few days or a few weeks later, you come back to it. It's still there. Nobody else moved it. It's still there waiting for you to come along and fix it or repair it. And then you decide, you know what, now it's just in the way. So let me move it somewhere else. So you take it out of the corner, you throw it in the closet, on the shelf somewhere, you put it in the garage, you know, upstairs in the attic, downstairs in the basement, wherever it is that we keep all of that you keep your broken stuff in a drawer somewhere, and you put it there, and there it is until you return to get it again. And then Weeks later, days later, months later, sometimes even years later, you discover this broken thing that you cast away and you put to the side in the attic or in the basement or in the garage somewhere, and it is still in the same condition that it was when you put it there weeks ago, months ago, whenever it was that you put it there, it is still there. Broken things. What do we do with them? How do we handle them? Can they be repaired? Should they be repaired? If you repair it, will it then still serve the same purpose for which it was originally intended? Will it still be the same? Will the outcome of its performance still be the same? Or is it still just a broken thing that you put a bandage on, that you put a nail in, that you did something to try and repair it? But is it bettered because you repaired it? Does it perform the same? That old vacuum cleaner, does it perform the same? Or does it still pick up, but not as much? Is the suction not as good as it was before it was broken? You know, the glass that had a chip in it and you repaired it. Now, are you drinking glue along with your glass? Or are small rivulets of water dripping out of it because you repaired it, trying to make it better, trying to make it serve the same purpose that it did before, but maybe maybe it's not the same and it's not performing the same. So what do we do with broken things? What do we do with broken things? We cast them aside most of the time. We throw them away. It reminds me of the kids' movie, Toy Story. What was the little boy's name? Timmy or something. I think I've forgotten his name. Whatever his name was in the movie. Hey, Tonio, thank you for joining. Whatever his name was in the movie, when his toy no longer performed, he took it and threw it into the toy chest because he no longer wanted to be bothered with it. He no longer derived any pleasure from it. It no longer held any value to him. It was no longer special because Woody didn't work anymore. So he didn't want Woody. So he threw him into the toy heap, forgotten about. And that's often the same thing that we do with broken things. But should we do that same thing to broken people? People that are broken emotionally, should we cast them aside? Should we just stuff them in the closet somewhere? Do we allocate them to the attic, to the basement, to the back room, somewhere where we don't have to engage with them because they're no longer valuable to us? They were our friend, but now that they're broken, now that they have gone through something that has brought them to this stage in their lives, we no longer can be bothered because they can't hang out with us anymore because they aren't feeling well because of their emotions. So for all of us church folks, we have friends at church and your friend is now broken. So as soon as the amen is done, they're out the door. They don't want to chit chat after church anymore. They don't want to go out to dinner. They don't want to sit around and stand around and talk for an extra 20 minutes, half an hour, and be the last person helping to close up the church as they did before. So where do we relegate the broken people that are in our lives? Do we devalue them further by no longer engaging them? Do we try to find out what their problem or their issue is? Do we try to find out, is there some way that we can help them? What can we do to bring them up? What can we do to make them feel better? Do we have a role to play in their lives? Is there anything that we can do? Is there anything we should do? Again, do we try to find out? Do we make any effort whatsoever to be a solution to the problem that they are having? We may not have the answer, but we can certainly be used as a vehicle to help them to get to the answer or to help them to come to a place of understanding or to a place of peace, right? So people that might be broken emotionally, it might be any number of things that has brought them to this state. Perhaps they lost their job. Perhaps their relationship, their marriage has fallen apart. Perhaps they've lost their home. Perhaps they're making 50% less income than they were making before. They had to switch jobs. Their job downsized. Any number of things can be the reason why they feel that way. So when we come in, when we step in as a friend for them, we can be a listening ear. We can be a shoulder to cry on. We can be of some help or some resource to them. So how should we handle them? And I would caution, I would start to say, we handle them carefully with kid gloves, especially if you haven't been through what they're going through. So you say, well, I haven't been through what they're going through. So, Victoria, there really isn't anything that I can do. Yes, there is. Again, like I said, you could be a listening ear. You could be a shoulder to lean on. You can be a support to them. You can talk to them. This was once your friend. So this is someone that you know. Let's say it's someone that you know intimately, and by intimately, I don't mean, necessarily in the sexual nature, but just someone that you've been friends with for a long time. Someone that, they're more than just a passing acquaintance. So maybe perhaps you can offer to come by and fix dinner. Maybe you can offer to keep the kids for the day. Maybe you can offer to come and, some of the things that they like. It's summer, it's warm outside. Maybe they love the beach. Maybe they love outdoors. Maybe they love nature. So perhaps you can help plan an outing with them. There's something that you can do to help them. But do we research ourselves and try to even find out what we can do? Do we research and find out what their problem is? If they share their diagnosis or if they share what the issue is, do we look on Google at all? Do we maybe ask questions of our own doctor and say, hey, what's the best method that I can use to help a friend of mine that might be going through emotional loss? Say they're going through the emotional loss of a loved one, and they're just bereft with grief. Their grief is just at a high point, and they've been like that for a while. Or even if it's fresh and new. Oftentimes when we experience death or loss amongst our family members or amongst our circle of friends, sometimes we just don't even know what to say. And sometimes words aren't even required. Sometimes just your presence is required. Sometimes someone just needs you to be there, a smiling face, an encouraging word, just a rub on the shoulder, a pat on the back, a hug or a squeeze. Do we do those things? Or do we just cast them aside until they get through going through what they're going through? Girl, then I can be bothered, because right now I just can't. I can't be bothered while they're going through all of that. I don't know. I haven't even been through anything like that, so I don't even know what it's like. Is that how we handle broken people? And especially as people of God, is that how we should handle broken people? I remember another part of the story in Toy Story, another part of the movie was that when Woody was cast aside, see, Woody had a lot of value as a toy. He was really even almost famous as a toy. And kids played with him all over. But this particular character in the movie, this was his favorite toy. This was the best one that he had ever had. He had Woody for years, and he played with him every single day. He and Woody grew up together until Woody no longer worked for him. He outgrew Woody. He was going away to college. And so they were moving and all of that, and his mom put Woody in the toy box. He really didn't want Woody in there, but that's where Woody ended up, in the forgotten heap. And so our friends end up in the forgotten heap sometimes. But the little boy discovered that Woody was there, or somebody else discovered that Woody was there in the toy heap. And what happened? Woody got sent off to the toy maker. Oh no, when he got into the heap and they had to sell, right. And the man saw Woody that had come to the yard sale. The man saw Woody that had come to the yard sale, and he went and knew that this toy had value, that this toy still had purpose. So he took Woody to the toy maker. The toy maker took Woody and restored him. Woody was old. His arm was torn. His shoes were rusty. Some of the color had worn off. I think his hat didn't fit anymore. Woody looked like he had been through a war. He had been through years of fun times. But in the toy box, he was just laying there. But he probably got jostled around and this and that and all of that. So all of these things happened to him over the years. But when he went to the toy maker, the master toy maker, when he went there, And the master toy maker got a hold of Woody. He polished Woody up. He painted him up. He shined him. He buffed him. He fixed his hat. He fixed his sleeve that was all broken off and all of that. And the little boy had his name on the bottom of Woody's shoe. Y'all have to help me out because I can't think of the little boy's name right now. But he helped him out with all of that. And when Woody came out of the toy maker's shop, Woody was a brand new man. He was a brand new cowboy. He fixed his voice box and everything. His string worked again. Woody could talk again. And Woody was ready to go. He was all fixed up. You couldn't even tell that Woody had been through some things. You couldn't tell that Woody had been scarred, that he had been buffed. You couldn't tell that Woody had been knocked around. You couldn't tell that Woody's hat didn't fit anymore. You couldn't tell that he had had surgery on his arm. You couldn't tell that his boots had once been scarred because now they were all polished up. Woody was not the same Woody that went into the toy maker's shop. As a matter of fact, Woody was in such great condition that Woody had to be set aside. He had to be encased in a glass cabinet where nobody could touch him. You couldn't breathe on Woody because he was in perfect condition. Woody was again ready to be used again in the arms, the hands, and the heart of the next child that would receive him. So sometimes with us, with broken people, we have to be the ones sometimes to come along and help them shine again. Sometimes we have to be the ones to come along and offer an encouraging word. We have to be the ones to come along and buff them up again so that they are bright and shiny and new again, to help them get over the hurdle of whatever it is that they have gone through. Now, I, for one, caution people against saying things that may not have that much meaning to the emotionally broken person from the person who may not have had their experience. So if you've not suffered the loss of a loved one, then don't say, I know exactly how you feel, because your husband, your wife hasn't died. So you may not know exactly how that feels because you've not had that experience. But it doesn't mean that you still can't be there to offer a form of support. I can only imagine what you might feel like. I haven't suffered that type of loss, but my heart goes out to you. I offer you my sincerest condolences and my most sincere, condolences. Right, I offer you my most sincere condolences for what you're going through, for what you're suffering through. You can say things like that, offer words of comfort. And, for those of us that are in the church world, come on, let's just be real about it. Sometimes anything you say is not enough, no matter what it is. But ask God to word your mouth, to give you what to say to the person receiving comfort. So I want us to be able to be there for a person, but don't go so over the top until now they even know that you're just trying to finesse them. You're just trying to finesse them. So be sincere about it. I remember it'll be 2 years. Will it be 2 years? This is 2019. It'll be 2 years this year that I lost my significant other. This is a man that I had just said yes to, had just been proposed to, was looking forward to being married and moving back to Texas. He lived in Texas. I lived here in Chicago. And it will be 2 years in August that we lost him unexpectedly. No warning. He wasn't sick or anything like that. I just talked to him. I just spoken to him. The day before, I got a phone call from his family asking if I had spoken to their brother or to their uncle that day. And I said, well, no, I haven't spoken to him today. He lived in Houston, and this was the time when they were having all of the flooding and the heavy rain and everything there, the hurricanes and what have you that was happening there. And he had some experience in relief work. So he was called to onto a job to come and help. Talked to him that Saturday morning, hey, babe, listen, I probably won't talk to you for the next 24 hours. I'm going here to do this, that, and the other, what have you. So I'll be gone, and, I'll talk to you on Sunday night. And that was it. So I didn't think anything of it when his niece called and saying, "Hey, Victoria, you talked about Uncle Mitchell today?" No, I haven't talked to him today, but I expect to talk to him later on this evening. Okay. Well, nobody talked to him today. Okay. Well, yeah, he went to do this job, blah, blah, blah. We went through all of that. But long story short, when I got the phone call back from her later that evening, no, before she called me again, his sister-in-law called me and let me know, hey, you know what, I know people have been calling you on this and that, but I just want to tell you what's really going on. We found out he's been in a terrible accident and it's not looking good. Girl, we need to pray. So I said, okay, most assuredly, we need to pray. So in that length of time, I ended up talking to his son, other family members, and what have you, and everybody in their respective places. I'm here in Chicago. They're in the other part of the city, other people from, Mississippi and what have you. So we all praying and we praying and we asking the Lord for a miracle. Lord, we know that you can do everything. Life and death is in your hand and da-da-da and all of that. And we praying. I get up off of my knees from prayer, and before I could get to my bedroom door, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, he's okay. He has lived out his appointed days. And I said, well, why did it have to happen like this? And he said, the Holy Spirit spoke right back to me. How would you have liked for it to happen? Because he didn't die a pleasant death. He was a victim of a violent crime. And so I was asking, why did it have to be that way? He just said, he's okay. He's lived out his appointed days. So there's nothing more. He's fine. Now, we had gotten some clues before then. He was telling me about a dream that he had and, how he saw this, big field and everything was so peaceful and all of that, But when you're not thinking along those lines, you don't make those kind of interpretations. I didn't get all of that, from the dream. I'm just expecting that, he's going to be around and, I'm going to be moving back to Texas pretty soon and we're going to be married and all. That's how I'm thinking. I'm thinking, my life is just about to begin. But when I lost him unexpectedly, to date, that is the most acute loss that I have suffered in my entire life. And I've already lost my mom. I had already lost my mom by that time. I lost my dad years ago. So I suffered that loss. But I'm telling you, going through that thing right there, that was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And even though I had the assurance, I don't know why I can't see people's comments, even though I had the assurance from God that he was okay. He was a Christian man. He lived his life, for the Lord and all of that. Witnessed everywhere he went and all of that. So I was not in question about his salvation and his whereabouts. But I was just suffering the loss of someone that I loved dearly, deeply. And I'm wondering, Lord, why did this happen now? I was going to be going back to Texas in just a few months. I was going there to look at a house in September, October. What the world? I was devastated. I was absolutely, positively devastated. I remember sometimes getting up. I still had to go to work, I think the next day. I did. I had to go to work on that Monday. I got up. I remember leaving home and I remember getting to work. Now, of course, I know my way to work. I drove there, every week. But I don't remember what happened in between. I can't tell you. I just knew, I got there by rote. I just got there just by routine because this is the drive that I took every Monday morning going to work. I got to work and my relief was there to receive me. And as soon as I walked in the door, she said, "Oh my gosh, Victoria, what's wrong?" And I said, I just found out yesterday I just lost my fiance. And she was like, "Why are you here?" I said, "Because I could not come to work. I could not come to work." But I tell you, I had some difficult days ahead of me. God had already assured me that he was okay and that I was going to be okay. But my humanness, my emotions stood there before me every single day. I remember coming to work sometimes and just sitting there. And it would be, I got there in the morning and it would be afternoon. It was time for me to fix lunch for my client or whatever. If she came into the kitchen, that meant she was hungry. So sometimes I was behind schedule because my emotions took over. It took over my life. It took over my thought processes. I did everything that I was supposed to do, but I did it automatically. I couldn't do anything more. I couldn't do anything extra because I just didn't have the fortitude to do it. I didn't have the mindset to do it. But God sent me a comforter in the natural. God sent me a comforter in the natural. My youngest daughter, who at that time was 19 years old? She was 19 years old at that time. The one that lives in the same house with me. I have two daughters. My oldest daughter, Rachel was there for me as well. But that young one was the one that saw me come home on my weekends and sit in the very chair I'm sitting in right now. And tears would just be streaming down my face. She saw me cry the silent tears, the tears of no words, the tears of no voice, just the tears of anguish, of hurt, of pain, of sorrow, of misunderstanding, of confusion. That's what she saw. But that's what that young lady ministered to me in that season. She oftentimes didn't say anything, but she said right here in this chair next to me, you can't see the chair, but she said right here in this chair next to me. And that young lady kept telling me, Mom, it's going to be okay. Mom, I am so sorry. Mom, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. But Mom, you know, God's going to take care of you. Mom, it's going to be okay. And she told me that every day. She told me that every day for days and for weeks. She told me that. She shared it with me. She was there for me. She would call me at work, or she would message me, or she would send me a text message. Whatever it was that her heart thought to do for me in that season, that's what she did. Appealing to my emotions, trying to make me feel better, encouraging me, strengthening me. She was just there. Just her presence, just being there was enough. You know, I had girlfriends, you know, when they found out about it, they would just call me and just say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's one girlfriend. That's all she said. I'm so sorry. I am so very sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. There was nothing really that anybody could do, you know. There was nothing really that anybody could physically do, because my pain seemed so unbearable in that moment, in that season. And I couldn't get past it. I went to work every day. I told my supervisors, look, I need some time off. I had to travel to Texas. I was listed as his next of kin. I had to go out there and clean out his apartment. I met his son there. I met his cousin there. I met his sister there. Nobody could get in except me. I was the only person listed on all the information. So I had to go in there alone. His best friend, his very best friend in Texas there, took excellent care of me, took me everywhere that I needed to go, went there with me. I cleaned out his apartment and everything. We had a memorial service for him there, which I participated in. Then we shipped the body back here, and I officiated his service. But that same 19-year-old daughter that sat by my side every single day, she was there at that service with me. And when I went there and stood before his casket and cried my whole face off, that young lady was there literally holding me up so I wouldn't hit the floor. She was the one that saw me laid out in the floor, bawling, weeping, just because it was the only thing that I could do. I had no control over my emotions, none whatsoever. It might sound strange to say that I had confidence, knowing that God was with me and that he was going to heal me from what I was going through. But while I was going through it, while I was in that emotional storm, that little girl, not really a little girl, but you know, she was my youngest one. She was there for me. Words and presence, assurance all the time. And that's what she was to me. So when we are ministering to people, when we are trying to be there for people, other people that are suffering emotional trauma, when they are going through it in the moment, it could be the worst thing of their life. But we, as a part of their community, should find a way. We're not God, but he can use us as vehicles to encourage them, to help them, to strengthen them, whatever it is. And that's what she was to me. That's how God used her for me at that time. to encourage, to help, to strengthen, all of that. And that's what she was to me. And it was the best medicine that I received in the natural out of any traumatic experience that I have ever gone through. She was literally holding me up at the funeral. I mean, my feet were like this on the floor because I was just going down. I was just going down. I was just going down. But she held me up. She encouraged me. She strengthened me. I was able to draw from her strength because of what I was going through. I had none of my own. I had another girlfriend that was a tremendous help to me. She would call me and just check in. How you doing today? I'm not doing so good today. I'm not doing so good today. I'm just not doing, and that's one conversation I remember. That's all I can say. I'm not doing so good today. I'm not doing so good today. She said, are you at work? Yes, I'm at work, but I'm not doing good. Can you take a walk? I think so. I think so. She said, go outside. And I went outside and I just walked. And she just talked. And she kept saying, do you trust God? Do you trust God? Yes. Yes, I trust God. Then just do that. Just trust God. Just trust God, Victoria. Just trust God. And she would just check in on me. So the point I'm really making is that about broken people is we can't afford to throw them away because we oftentimes may not know how they're really doing mentally, how they're really doing emotionally in here. Like I said, I was devastated beyond measure. His circle of friends came from across the country. And those that knew me and those that didn't really know me, they knew of me. They were emotional help for me. They were emotional strength for me. They were there when I needed someone to be there. Because I'm telling you, that was the worst condition, state of being that I've ever been in my life. And I've lost both of my parents. I lost my dad in 1991. I'm a daddy's girl, always have been. And when he passed away, again, victim of a violent crime, when he passed away, it devastated me too. It shook my whole world. I don't remember what happened. I remember what people told me happened. My siblings, my mom at the time, I was at work when I got the news. My coworkers told me later how I responded. They told me they could hear me well and throughout the entire store. When I got the phone call at work that my dad had been shot and killed. So we don't know what state people are in, but do what you can do. Don't throw them away. Don't cast them off. Don't say, well, I'm waiting on God to heal them and then, we can talk again. Be a friend to them. Be a source to them because God may be using you to encourage them. He might use you to be the one to have a kind word to say to them because sometimes they're in a condition where they can't even pray for themselves. I know at that time I couldn't. All I could say really was, God help me. That's all I could say. That's all I could get out. I couldn't say anything else. I couldn't do anything else. I could just utter those words. And this went on for like the whole month. If you ask me now what happened in the month of August 2,000 years ago, all I can tell you is that Mitchell Bernard Blewett passed away on August the 2nd. That's all I can tell you. I can't tell you anything else that happened in the month of August. I knew I went to Texas and I came home. I knew I had a funeral, a service there, and we had a service here. That's all I can tell you. And then right on the heels of him passing away, I had a brother of mine that passed away. We discovered that he had passed away the week after. He had one funeral. I did Mitchell's funeral on Saturday, and then I expected my brother to be there. I had spoken to him before I left for Texas. He's like, sis, I'm going to be there. When you all come back to Chicago, let me know when the services are, and I will be there. I talked to him. He wasn't there. I said, hey, that's not like him not to show up. I have to call him. Before I could call him on Monday, I got the news on Sunday that he had passed away. And so then there was another funeral that I had to officiate and help put together. So broken people, sometimes they will withdraw from you. They would withdraw and they would go inside their shell, and they would figure that they could deal with their grief in their own way. And that's what I thought. I could deal with my grief in my own way, but I really couldn't. I had God there. All I had to do was tap in to access him. But in my human brokenness, in my emotions being all over the place, the only thing that I could do was to rely on those outside sources at that time that God had given me. And it was of a great help to me. Without them, I don't know how I would have gotten through it. Without that young lady, Tabitha Dubose, without her, I don't know how I would have gotten through those days. But thank God I did. Thank God I did. It was because of her encouraging me, of her undergirding me, of her being there for me, that helped me to get through what I was going through at that time, in that season. So don't throw away broken people. You carry them to the master. I'm sure that she prayed for me. I'm sure that she did, because she could see how much I was hurting. She could see how much pain I was in. So you do the same. Carry them to the master, to the creator. And then when you carry them, he will do the same thing for them that the toy master did for Woody in Toy Story. Because I tell you, today, I am renewed, I am restored, I am definitely okay. Like I said, this will be 2 years in August. But I'm not approaching August with grief. I'm not approaching it with trepidation. I'm not fearful. I'm not afraid. I am not thinking that I'm going to go into another whole season of grief. I am not, because I am completely free. I am completely free. I loved what God gave me. I loved him to the utmost. When he passed away and he was on life support for a season, when his family called me, because I hadn't got to Texas yet, I was coming that weekend, and they were trying to wait for me, but they called me and said, Victoria, we can't wait. We're going to have a meeting. We're going to call you back, and we're going to let you know what our decision is. We want your input. I know you want to keep him, but we're going to have a meeting and talk with the doctors and all that, and they did all that. But before they called me back, I was at work. I was doing senior care at that time and had my client. I became so discombobulated at that time. Thank you for the hearts. I don't know why I can't see comments. I can't see your comments, but I will address your comments at the end of this post. I became so discombobulated in that season, at that moment, until I couldn't find my way out of the kitchen. A kitchen that I worked in every day for 3 days out of the week. And I'd been there for a year. I couldn't find my way out of the kitchen, because all of a sudden in my spirit, I just felt like a flurry of activity. I can't really describe to you today what it was. I believe I know what it was. I believe they were making the decision at that time. And it was just affecting me that way, because we were two hearts that were connected. We were two spirits that were connected at the same time. And it was a healthy relationship. Okay? No hanky and no panky and any of that. It was a healthy relationship. But in that moment, I became so discombobulated until I could not perform my usual task. And so I went and sat down. I said, you know what? Let me do my charting notes. Let me just chart. And when I looked down at what I wrote, I was not writing down the tasks and activities. What I wrote down was, help me, Lord, right now. That's what my spirit wrote, because that's how I felt. It was like, something's going on here. You know what? I can't deal with this right now. I was like, Lord, I need you to help me right now. And that's what I ended up writing down. I read it later. So when I got the phone call a few minutes after that, It wasn't his son that called me, but one of his best friends that called me and said, listen, you sitting down, baby girl. And I knew already before he told me. And I was sitting down, like I'm sitting down, I'm sitting in the chair. And as I was sitting there and I was saying, help me, Lord, and I actually posted on Facebook, help me, Lord, right now. I'm not one of those people that post my life on Facebook. I didn't mention anything about his death or anything, but just that I needed God right then in that moment, right now. Lord, if you don't help me, I'm going to lose it. Something's going on. I don't understand it. And something on my body kept going forwards and backwards like this. And it wasn't me doing it. I just kept like feeling like I was being pushed forward, and then I'd be pushed back against the seat. And after about the third time, I fell back against the seat, and I felt like this rush of wind and heat come up through my body, and it felt like I felt something just force itself out of my chest. His friend called me a few minutes later, say, baby girl, you sitting down? I said, yes, I am. I said, but I already know. I said, he's gone. You all took him off. They took him off, didn't they? He said, yeah, they did. I said, what time was it? He told me the time. The time that he quoted to me was the exact same time that I was having this struggle in my body. Grief and emotional trauma can be so super extreme until things happen to you that you have no control over. That's what happened to me. So I'm speaking from my own personal experience, but I'm saying this to you. We can't cast aside broken people. I remember as a teenager, again, for myself, my own personal testimony, I guess I'm really being transparent tonight. The show's not about me, but I'm just trying to share with you some experiences. As a teenager, when I went through my rebellious stage, at home with my parents and, in the church and all of that, I got cast away. I got put in the garage. I got put in the attic. I got put in the basement. I got put in the closet. I got set on the shelf. Nobody talked to me. Nobody tried to reason with me. Nobody asked me what was wrong. Nobody asked me, is there anything that they could do? Nobody wanted to know if they could help me. And I'm not bashing anybody, but this came from my leadership all the way down. People were told in the church, don't talk to her. She's a bad girl. Don't associate with her. She has some issues. I don't really know if they were praying for me or not, because nobody came. Nobody came. No white knight in shining armor came to my rescue. It was only me crying out again in my brokenness in that season. God, help me. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be this way. We have got to learn to embrace our people, to love our people, whomever they are. It might be your coworker sitting next to you in the cubicle at work. Even if you don't know what they're going through, ask God to show you how to minister to them. Ask God to show you how to help them. Ask God to give you the words to say. You carry them to the Creator and let Him do the work, but you be the vehicle. I didn't always have that. And I know some of you didn't either. Sometimes your brokenness got cast aside when you were in your stage of brokenness. I know it's the truth because it happens all the time, especially to us in church. I'm not bashing the church, but I'm just saying that sometimes what we do as church people is not very church or Christ-like. Don't cast away broken people. You don't have to be the professional. And that's the other thing. As church folk, we need to get off of this thing of that all we need to do is pray. I'm totally not against prayer. I love prayer. And I know that prayer works. And I know that prayer is always in order. But sometimes in our human condition, sometimes you might need to go and talk to a Christian counselor. Sometimes your pastor might not be the best person for you to talk to. Sometimes the church mother might not be the best person for you to talk to. But in the African American community, we're African American, and I know I'm starting to sound like a runaway train because I always start to talk really, really fast when I get excited about stuff that I'm talking about. But I'm just saying sometimes in the African American community, we're African American, let me slow down. We're African American people. Okay. We're in the church, especially in the Kojic church. I don't know about other churches, but in the Kojic world, sometimes they're going to tell you, girl, go pray. Girl, go pray. Girl, go pray. Okay. So while I'm praying and my faith isn't enough to get my prayer through, what's going to happen? I'm just going to fall apart? You just going to let me? You're not going to try to help me? Nobody's going to recommend that even though we have counselors in the church, sometimes in your own church, and nobody comes over and says, while you building your faith, while you praying, why don't you come in for a consultation? Nobody does that. That doesn't happen all that often because we don't want to believe that counseling, I don't know, outside the church doesn't work. Well, didn't God give us counselors? Didn't he give us that man-made wisdom? And so if you go into a Christian counselor, are they not equipped to help you in their professional realm? And then can't they still pray for you in the spirit realm? Come on now. I think a whole lot different about some of these things that I've been told and taught down through the years. Don't throw away broken people. They can be saved. They can be repaired. And by saved, I don't mean, saved spiritually, because sometimes it's the saved folks that's going through it. It's not sometimes the non-churched folk or the unchurched or the unsaved that's sitting in the church. Sometimes it's the ones sitting there, saved, sanctified, professing to be filled with the Holy Ghost and the burning fire and running on to see what the end gonna be. They need the help. But we just sit back and we're just gonna wait for Sister Sally to get it together. We don't want to be the vehicle. We don't want to add it to our prayer list. Or if we do, we say the prayer so quick, I don't know, did it reach heaven or did it just go up and come back? I don't know. But what I do know is that it's detrimental to throw away broken people. It can be detrimental for them. Some of them end up being lost. Some of them might not make it back. Not everybody makes it back. Woody made it back because Woody went to the master or was taken to the master. And the master was able to renew him. The master was able to refresh him. The master was able to repurpose him. The master was able to bring him to a place of newness and restore what he once was. That's what our master does. That's what our creator does. But if nobody's praying for me and I can't pray for myself and nobody's interceding, then what? I know the grace of God is there and he's not going to let his children just die. He's not just going to let us just fall by the wayside. But we have a role to play. We have a role to play in the lives of the people that are in our community, that are in our tribe, your own personal tribe, the ones that surround you every day, the ones you around every day. We have a responsibility to them. Am I my sister's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? Talk to Cain and Abel about that. Do we have responsibility? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Should we exercise it? Yes, we should. Sometimes, again, you might not know what to say. You might not know exactly what to do. But when you go to God, he will help you. The Bible tells us that he bears our sorrows, right? Our griefs and our sorrows. That he is there to restore us. He will renew us. He will never leave us alone. So when we're in that condition, sometimes all we can do is just say, God, help me. Sometimes all we can do is say, He understands what that means. We're moaning and groaning, our hurt and our pain, but he understands what that means. So do that. Do that. Don't just die. Don't just die until the one that is emotionally broken. I say, reach in there and find your inner strength. Find that ounce that you have. Find that mustard seed that's there. It's there. It is in you. I tell you, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I just did my regular everyday stuff because I was accustomed to doing it. But I didn't know what to say to myself. I didn't know what to say to God except, help me. Help me. Please help me. Please help me. Sometimes it was just, God, Lord. That's all I could get out. That's all I had the effort and the energy for. So love yourself enough to want to survive. Love yourself enough to want to make it. And when we don't have the willpower for ourselves, that's when people stand in the gap for us and help us through, help us to get through so we can cross through to the other side. Don't throw away broken people. Don't throw away broken people. And broken people, you're hurting emotionally, don't throw yourselves away. Don't throw yourself into the trash heap. Don't throw yourself into the fire. Swim. Swim. Just put one foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other. There's another experience that I've heard some of my mentors talk about in recent years, and I think this is akin to also being so emotionally broken until you feel like you can just give up. There really isn't anything that you can do, and you don't have anything to live for. I've heard people talk about having a dark night of the soul experience. And again, I went through an experience. I think I talked about it a little bit when I did my etiquette seminar. I talked about it a little bit, having that dark night of the soul experience. Unless you've been through one, that right there, that's a force to be reckoned with. Because you can't really, I couldn't put my finger, I couldn't pinpoint it and say, it's this thing that has me feeling this way. It's this particular thing right here that has me feeling this way. It was that and this and that thing back over there and this thing over here and this person in this situation. It was everything. It was everything. It was me being back here in Chicago. I come back from Texas to take care of my mom. My mom had transitioned and went home, and I wanted to go back to Texas, but I felt like I couldn't really. I needed to stay here, so I stayed. I really wanted to be there, so it was that. It was the fact that my mom was gone. It was the fact that my dad's been gone for all those years. It was the fact that I wasn't working the job I wanted, and then I lost that job, and then I had to try and get another job, and I couldn't find a job right away, and I'm not used to being in a situation like that. I can always find a job. What in the world is going on? And other people leaning on me and calling me and asking me for this and for that, and I can't do all of this. What's going on? The days when I couldn't get out of bed. The days when I couldn't get out of bed. I just couldn't. And then when I would force myself, and I came and sat in another chair just like this one, different side of the table, and just sat there. And just sat there. Had no energy, had no appetite, no will to pray, no will to fight. Just what I felt like, Lord, if this is it, this is how it's going to end. Dang, I didn't think it would be like this. Where are you anyway? I can't even hear your voice. I can't feel your presence. What is going on? This is the hell in the hallway before I get to the door. Well, if this is hell in the hallway, what could be worse than this? Well, just going to take me, Lord. Okay. I have to go like this. I'm going. I had my daughter, she was younger. All my children. My son was in California. My other son was in Denver. My oldest daughter was on the south side somewhere. It seemed like those things didn't even matter. It seemed like it just didn't matter. But I had to find my inner me. The inner me that was in me had become a part of my inner me. You know what I'm saying? The inner me was also my enemy. And I had to decide this thing is going to have to go. Somebody going. I really don't want it to be me because I don't feel like I'm finished yet. I'm not done yet. I haven't fulfilled my purpose here in the earth realm. So it can't be me. I can't go. I can't be the one. So this thing is going to have to go. And I sat in that chair. And I promise you, it felt like the ground was just going to open up and I was just going to be sucked in and that was going to be it and it was over. And I said, well, if this is how I'm going, then I'm going out just like this with the little fight that I have left. And all I remember was waking up the next day free. Free. Was that my Jacob experience? I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe I wrestled with that thing all night long. But I know I woke up the next morning free, feeling like me, refreshed, renewed, revived. But getting through that thing, it was more than hell in the hallway. It was hell on fire. That's how it seemed in my world, in my life. I was broken. Somebody, I believe, God had somebody interceding for me because there were days when I couldn't pray for myself. Thank God, whomever it was. Thank you. Thank you, because I did my best to hide it from my family and my friends. It took every ounce of whatever little bitty energy I had left to fake it, fake it, fake it, fake it, fake it, fake it, fake it until I could make it. It was just like that. That's just how it was. Broken emotionally. Seemed like my mind was broken. I couldn't think for myself. My heart was broken. I had nothing but tears. I had nothing. There was no joy, no ounce of it, nothing whatsoever. But God, whatever ounce of faith I had, whatever ounce of hope I had, was enough to bring me through that season. And I'm so grateful that I got through it. But don't throw away broken people. If you take anything away from this post, if you take anything away from this line, look at broken people differently. Look at them as if it were you. How would you feel if it were you? You would want somebody to help you. You would want somebody to minister to you. You would want someone to do something for you. Because sometimes we're in such a state emotionally until we can't. And I'm not talking about depression per se. I know that this is a part of it, and even in that, whether it's clinical, whether it's behavior, whether it's psycho, whatever type it is, you need someone. We need some help. We need some help. As my friend Tonil says, we are better together, and we are better together. You might be the foot, I might be the hand. You might be the hand, I might be the thumb, but we're better together. We're better together. So let's hold on to one another. Let's encourage one another. Let's be there for one another. And let's see brokenness for what it is. You say, well, what is it? I see brokenness as people being outside of themselves, unable to help themselves. So if they are outside of themselves and they're unable to help themselves, then you step in. You step in. If you can't physically do anything, you can pray. You can do that. Take them to the master. Intercede on their behalf and watch a change happen. Watch transformation happen. That's been my experience when I've been broken. And I can think of 3 times in my life when it happened to me. In my teenage years, my dark night of the soul experience, and like I said, my personal loss of a loved one. Those were 3 times when I was so broken, so very broken. In my teenage years, I considered suicide. I considered it. I was standing outside of school one day and I just saw the truck coming, jump in front of the truck, girl, it'll be over. It'll be over and you'll be done. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. See, we don't want to talk about those things in church. We don't want to talk about these things like they're not real, like they don't happen to us or they don't happen to our children or our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, even our aunts and our uncles. You don't have to be a young person to go through that. You don't have to be a young person to suffer it. You don't have to be old. You could be any age. I was in my teenage years. I was around 15 years old when I had those thoughts. That dark night of the soul experience, that was 4 years ago. And then losing the fiance, that was almost 2 years ago. So, it happens to us as human beings. Saved, sanctified, and Holy Ghost filled. It happens. Baby Christians, it can happen. Mature Christians, it can happen. You don't have to be a certain age, stage, or place for it to happen. It just happens. But I encourage you and I admonish you, don't throw away broken people. Embrace them. Love on them. Encourage them. Find a scripture, find an affirmation, find something positive to encourage them, to stand them up. Be the arms that hold them up. My daughter was literally my arm. She was my arm. She was my feet. She covered me. She covered me at 19 years old. Not very much life experience, but she saw that her mom was hurting beyond measure and she was able to minister to me. So God used her as the vehicle to help me till I could get to the point where I could stand firm again. He used my girlfriend to call and check in on me. He used my other girlfriend to just embrace me and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So you never know how God is going to use you, but allow him to do so. And let's not throw away broken people. Let's tap in to their emotions. Let's be more aware of what's going on around us and the people that are in our circle that love us and that we love them. And I am at my hour just about. I said 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm going to go on and just begin to wrap it up here. But don't throw them away because they still have value. They still have value. The little boy discovered that Woody, all fixed up, still had value. Even when he was broken, he wanted to play with him, but he couldn't get the same return off of his investment of playtime with Woody. So he cast him aside, but he still loved him. He still wanted him to be better. So can't we still love our people? Can't we want them to be better to the point that we hang in there with them until they can be renewed, revived, refreshed, and restored? Can we do that? The 4 R's: renewed, revived, refreshed, and restored. Let God use you as a vehicle to help those that are hurting around you. Let's stand in the gap for those that we love, and let's share this message. Can you do that for me? I appreciate you tuning in tonight for this edition and this presentation of Bedtime Chronicles, where tonight we're talking about emotionally broken people and how we can help them. We should not cast them aside. We should stand in the gap for them, and we should be offensive about them, around them. Let's carry them to the Creator and let Him do the work, but you be the vehicle. Can we do that for each other? I so appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here on tonight. This is Lady Victoria with Victoria School of Etiquette, where we have a solution to all of your etiquette problems and concerns. And I am broadcasting you tonight live from the windy city of Chicago, Chi-Town. We like to call it the best in the Midwest. Please like and share the video, hit the share button, replay, pass it on to your friends. And until next time, I want you to be in your very best etiquette health, and we will chat again soon. Thank you very much, and good night.